Hello, and welcome to another episode of Purlfect Pairings. My name is Gayanne, she, her.
And my name's Nicole, and my pronouns are she and her.
We'd like to start today by acknowledging the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation and pay our respects to their elders past and present. We acknowledge the often fraught relationship between Indigenous land rights and the Australian farming industry. We also would like to acknowledge the contribution of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders people to the fiber arts community over the millennia.
Well, lovely ones, we have quite a big episode for you today.
Big.
Yes, indeed. So we are doing FOs because we haven't done an FOs for ages. We've been very busy doing lots of interviews and we've done a few whips.
Yeah.
But we do have quite a bit of stuff to show you.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think we probably tend to have, well, at least I tend to have more whips than finished things because of my castonitis that I suffer from. Evidently, I heard recently that is a actual thing.
Yes, I think it's fair to say that you do have castonitis. Yes, as a pharmacist, I feel qualified to make that diagnosis.
All right. Should I kick it off?
Let's go. Let's get started.
This is the Honey Moss Shawl by Andrea Mowry of Drea Renee Knits, and it is a beauty. It starts off with this honeycomb stitch pattern here that Nicole is holding, and then transitions into this lace pattern, and it's just absolutely gorgeous.
It really is. I've certainly seen the honeycomb bit. If you watched our last whips episode, I was spending a lot of time massaging it. But the lace section is, yes, just gorgeous.
I knit it in Great Ocean Road Labella 10 ply. That's a merino and alpaca blend. And here, I'll put it on. This is how I've been styling it. It's so cozy.
It's very large.
Literally, it is a bit of a mazza. It's a bit of a mazza. But it sits nicely. You can kind of cover your shoulders with it. Oops, that one. Not that one.
It's basically a wearable blanket.
It's fabulous. I'll do a little bit of a crouch so you can see.
Lovely.
And then maybe we'll put a photo up.
Yeah, I think we might do a little video. Hopefully now there's a fancy little video of Gayanne wearing it.
So that was a bit of a win, and it's just so cuddly, and I've finished it in time for the March to May 2023 cowl.
Yes, the Drea Renee knits, yes. So possibly there'll be photos on Instagram of that before I finished editing this episode. So you might have already seen it. There might be a spoiler. But,
it's actually the first Andrea Mowry pattern that I've knit.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I found the pattern quite readable.
Yep.
Easy to navigate. So I can recommend. I can recommend the pattern, and it's just so cuddly.
Ultra cozy.
Yeah. Perfect for Melbourne winter.
Which, finally, guys, we have some of here in Melbourne. It's actually a really cold day today, which is lovely. It's exciting to feel like wearing knits whilst filming. We've done a couple of episodes lately where we have had to wear t-shirts.
Yeah, got a bit warm.
Yes. Anyway, so spoiler, this is my FO. So in our last episode, which was a whips episode, I had basically almost finished this piece, which is my leftovers Lento. So it was done and inspired by the Criabea, or you say Criabea?
I say Criabea, but her name is Rebecca Clow.
Anyway,
Clow.
Apologies if we've,
sorry,
however we've mispronounced that. But also it was a collaboration between Rebecca and Amy Palco, who we love.
I know, I'm always gushing on about Amy.
Amy probably might, hopefully, maybe one day watch one of these episodes and be like,
I know.
fangirls. So it was a collaboration knit along that I think was in
earlier this year.
February
and March,
I didn't quite make it. But the Lento is by
it's Jonna Aethalia,
which
hopefully
again we've probably mispronounced.
Probably should have Googled the pronunciations before we started, but
note to selves.
Yep.
Anyway, gorgeous pattern. I think it was in a Liner magazine originally, wasn't it?
Yep.
So really lovely, very simple raglan. The original has a doubled over neckline, which I didn't do.
Yeah.
But it's what I do like about it, and what you can particularly see in my leftovers version is this like lovely square, I think they call it a saddle neckline, but it's a top-down raglan, and it's a nice little bit of difference. I'm actually I discovered some yarn in my stash the other day that I think I might do another one with. That might be a little bit of a classier version, because this was literally Sunday afternoon where I don't know, I needed some excitement in my life. And I'd been watching these Lentos, and I saw Rebecca did a lovely striped version, which really highlighted this yoke
It was beautiful
design. And so I was like, I'm just gonna start. So I found some random bits of yarn. I didn't have I think the original is 4-ply fingering held together with lace weight mohair. I didn't have any of that handy. It is equivalent to a DK. I grabbed a stash of DK and off I went. And I'm gonna do a little hovery kneel. Whoa.
Great. That was awesome.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not gonna do that again. Or I can if you want.
I reckon you could just adapt any yarn
100%.
to that pattern. You just figure out what your gauge is and then do the math.
Gauge. I don't swatch.
If you want to use any pattern or any yarn with this pattern, you will need to do a swatch, and then you can do the math and figure out exactly how many stitches you need to make the size that you want to make.
Or you can just pick a random DK.
Or you can pick a random DK and just see what you get.
Adjust as you go. Shout out to all my adjust as you go fellow knitters out there. I know there's probably only 3 of you in the world, but anyway, love it. It's very fun. It's a little bit more cropped. I'm going to try not to do a weird one. So it's a little cropped, but I am wearing a high-waisted pant today, so it works. I probably would do my next one a little longer because I'm not so into the cropped thing. I tend to get a really cold back and tummy, and I don't have a lot of high-waisted pants. But when you dress appropriately, it's lovely. But yeah, just a lovely pattern, fun to do. I highly recommend.
I've got some stash that I'm eyeing off as well. So if you make another one, maybe I'll make one too.
Maybe we'll do it at the same time.
Well, I have another FO, I think.
Yes.
Which is here, and I'll just take this off and pop this on. This is a gorgeous pattern by Aethalia O'Connor, who designs under Donnybrook Designz, and that's with an NZ because she's a New Zealand designer. It is the Honeycomb brioche cowl. I'll try this if I leave your face and then put, is that working?
We don't need to do that. We'll just do a close-up.
Not working. That's okay. So I made the long version. I thought it might work, which I can double up.
It's good to try things
over, and I think that is just amazing. I've made it in a Louie and Lola DK in a club colorway from 2021. So this has been languishing in my stash. So I'm so glad I got to use it.
Was it a single skein?
Two
skeins.
Well, 1.5.
Okay.
Here's my leftovers. So
Yep.
you can see what it looks like.
It's very pretty.
Caked and
Yeah.
then knit up. And the
It's gorgeous.
texture of honeycomb brioche, which I love. It's one of my favorite stitches. And it's so cozy. And I think for jackets that have a round collar, this will style really well. And keep my neck quite warm.
Very cozy.
It's a superwash merino nylon blend. I'm not sure if I said that already.
And it does qualify for, we keep shouting out the low cowl knit along that
Yes.
Louie and Lola has. So we'll include the hashtag to that.
And it's a
in
year-long cowl knit along or cowl crochet along, where you use local, it's local to us, Australian or New Zealand yarn with a pattern by an Australian or New Zealand designer.
And through just chatting about it, we have got to know Karina a little bit better from Louie and Lola Yarns, and working on, little spoiler maybe, something exciting coming up with her and perhaps someone else who we've met before. I'm so good at that. That was really subtle.
I will shout out Aethalia again. She's got this, you can buy actually a bundle that includes the cowl, a hat, and some mitts with it. So I'm thinking about whether I can do the mitts.
You could probably do a chunk of the mitts in that and then just find a little contrast colour for the band or something like that.
That's exactly what Aethalia said when I said, I've got quite a bit of leftover from my second skein. And she was like, just use some contrast on the cuff, like on the ribbing bits.
Love it. Very good. Well, I have a couple of other FOs that I wanted to talk about, but unfortunately I don't have them here to show today because they were both gift knits. So we'll link to the first one in our show notes, but back when we filmed at the interview with Tom from Tandy, in that episode, I was working on my Painting Honeycombs blanket by Stephen West. And it was for a friend's little girl who was born during COVID at a time when I was very busy working and I hadn't done any kind of baby present for her. And she's now a glorious little, I think she'll maybe be 3 by now. So I wanted to, and my partner was going over, they live in the US, so he was meeting them over in the Northern Hemisphere. And in Canada rather than the US. Anyway, and so I just wanted to send a beautiful little gift, which turned out to be a beautiful, very large gift. And it was made with really lovely Tandy yarn as the main colour, and then a range of yarns that were both, some with stash, so a little bit of Bendigo Woollen Mills, and then some heirloom yarns. So just a lovely range of really bright colours of all Australian wool, which is really important because her parents are Australian, and for her mum particularly it's very important that the little one maintains her connection to Australia. Hopefully her accent, although that's not looking promising at this stage. They sent me this beautifully cute video when they gave it to her. So she loved it. She went through and pointed out all the colours. I think pink is her favourite colour at the moment. So I'd had a lot of hot pink on it, which she loved. And then she put it on the floor and asked her mum to lie down on it with her, and they had a cuddle. So it was the sweetest video. Yeah, apparently she loves it. And then I followed up immediately with a message to mum and dad saying, now that you've seen it and she loves it, here are the washing instructions, which we all know are very important. And it's okay because her mum has some precious, she knows how to handle knitwear.
Good.
So,
Good.
Yep. It was all good.
That's not the only gift knit. You've been very generous with your knitting.
I have
lately. Very generous.
So last year, we both signed up for the Stephen and Penelope yarn along, which is happening again at the moment. We didn't sign up this year. And in the first, it was the first one. Yeah, in the first, so what happens in the yarn along is you get 3 packages of yarn, each a month apart. And for each package of yarn, there is a pattern released specific for that yarn. And so we have talked previously about the beautiful Morton Noah shawl that Gayanne has finished, that I have not finished. And we'll pop a link to that in the show notes, that episode. And that was the 3rd package, wasn't it?
It was.
But the very first package was really beautiful yarn for the striped Vortex shawl, which I looked at again the other day, and I actually really like the pattern, but it's just not something I personally would wear. Just not my style. And at the moment, there was no one in my life that I could think of that it would really suit to gift to. It's a really unusual
the construction
and,
actually,
yeah,
oddly enough, I actually have the start of it in my lap. This isn't an episode on whips, so we're not really talking about it, and I'm not planning to really continue it, but it starts from the center and then works out.
Yeah, so it's like a magic loop. What's it called? Anyway, it's almost like you almost start like you're knitting, but it's almost like a crocheted granny square.
Yeah. I see what you-
Yeah. So, but I love the yarn, and I wanted to do something with it, and I was trawling through Stephen West's patterns, and I found this really lovely pattern for the Sky Storm shawl. And I thought that it would really work with the yarn that I had. It was the right combination. You needed 3 different colours. And so I decided to give that a go. But then at the same time, I thought that the colours of the yarn that we had looked very much like a stormy sea. So I did a little bit of a reverse. And so it kind of mimics a crashing or a wave, or a kind of an over-the-top view of like when you get those views of the ocean where you're looking down and you can see the really dark ocean out where it's really deep, and the lighter blue water, and then the crashing waves. So Gayanne still has her skeins here to show them.
Haven't finished.
So the first one is
Stormy Seas.
Stormy Seas, and it's by Dusty Dimples, which is a indie dyer that I hadn't really heard of before. Really glorious yarn. So this is a superwash merino, 75% with 25% nylon, and we'll show a close up, but it's like a really deep, well, it's kind of a mid-grey colour with some really beautiful flecks of a tealy blue through it. The other one by Dusty Dimples is called Sea Mist, and it's quite a light grey colour with, again, flecks of a really tealy blue. Yours actually has, maybe it's just this part of the skein, but less blue than mine did. Mine had quite a lot of blue. And I mean, you know, that's what you get when you're dealing with indie dyes, with hand dyeing yarn.
That's
you can kind of see more of the blue colour there. And then the third one,
it's kind of the wow skein, isn't it?
Yeah, the colour pop. So this one is Birch Hollow Fibres, again a 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon, and it's called Teal Tide. And it's really, I mean, the colour
so vibrant
on your screen is pretty correct, wouldn't you say? Really, really vibrant and really lovely. So I used these to make the Sky Storm shawl. And as I was knitting it, because originally I was just knitting it because I thought it would be a really lovely pattern to showcase the colours, and I liked the I had that real ocean theme going on in my mind. And as I was knitting it, I couldn't stop thinking about a lovely friend of mine who she had just started knitting at that time. So I couldn't stop thinking about this lovely friend of mine. Her name's Sophie. She was kind enough to send me some photos of her modelling the shawl.
Oh, yay.
And she's an avid surfer, like an incredible surfer and an avid surfer. And I just couldn't stop thinking about that this would be a perfect gift for Sophie. But obviously, particularly for someone who knits, they know what an over-the-top gift, an indie dyed, beautiful yarn, hours and hours and hours and hours. So I wasn't sure when I would give it to her.
Mm-hmm.
But then her partner organised a surprise birthday party, and I went, well, that thing doesn't need to sit in the box anymore. It needs to be enjoyed.
Yeah.
So I did give it to her and make her open it with me and go, I realise this is a really over-the-top gift and don't feel compelled to return the level of... Because as we know, when we're making these things, by the time you factor in time, it's an $1,000 shawl.
Right.
So don't feel the need to return the favour. But as I was knitting it, I just knew
for the love.
It
right?
was, well, it's all about the love, and she was the right person. The shawl was calling out for Sophie.
It was meant for her.
And as it turns out, Sophie was calling out for the shawl. She loves it. And she
Perfect.
wears it all the time.
So good. Acquisitions.
Yay.
We have some really
we have a
fun...
lot of acquisitions.
Okay, and you know, you've got a yarn enabling friend when they send you a link and they say, oh, have you seen this?
Yes.
All right. Nicole lovingly sent me the link to the skein yarn bundle for the Elton pullover, which is a pattern that we have been eyeing off. It's by Joji Locatelli. I think she's an Argentinian designer, and she is prolific and designs beautiful, beautiful garments and shawls, and probably other
All kinds of
accessories.
things, probably. Yes.
You've likely heard of her. And I couldn't resist. So Nicole couldn't resist either. So here they are.
So the Elton, are you going to make the Elton cardigan or the sweater?
I'm gonna, I think, go for the sweater. I'm a little nervous about the quantity of yarn, only because I knit very loose. But I think it'll be okay. I just have to make sure I hit gauge by doing a swatch. Anyway, this is amazing. The kits are still available online. My kit is, I think it's kit number 6, and that was black cherry is the fingering weight color, and it's 100% superwash merino, and as well tamarind, which is the mohair silk, which makes the beautiful stripes throughout that pattern.
So it's a really good sort of between season type of cardigan or sweater. I'm thinking I might try and time mine for spring, which is a long way away for us now.
We have plenty of time.
So my two, I wanted to go with something, I tend to go with a lot of bright colours, and I wanted to go with something a little bit more neutral. I'm not entirely certain I achieved that, but it's more neutral for me.
It's gorgeous. It's just beautiful. Wait till you see this picture.
I have these beautiful skeins. This is called Antique Brass, and it's just a glorious kind of brassy, creamy. There's a little bit of a bluey purple and an olivey green through it. So that's my fingering weight for the main body. And then this is my token, slightly more neutral, and this is called Tequila, which I really like tequila. So not in shops, in an old school fancy slow drinking spirit kind of way.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, so that's my lovely kit. What do we know about Skein yarn?
So it's the first time I've actually ordered from them. They have had, when I first started knitting, I was so keen to sign up for their club, but it was always sold out. So I'm really excited to knit with this.
Really beautiful, lovely texture. And they have an absolutely huge array of kits available on their website as well. So
100%. And
yeah, and they're really hard to choose between because they're really lovely. So they do quite a few for Hohi Locatelli.
I was really eyeing off the kits for the Ilya sweater by Caitlin Hunter.
And I think they do kits for Hohi Locatelli's Prairie cardigan, which is the mild.
Oh, yes, with the bubbles.
Yeah, which is kind of, it's often popping up in the most popular patterns on Ravelry at the moment. So, yeah,
beautiful.
Worth checking out. What a treat. That was a very good mail day.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was. And we had another awesome day. When we went to the, well, we call it Coburg, right?
We call it Coburg. So it's held at Marybeck Hall, which used to be the Coburg Town Hall, but they've renamed it. I think Marybeck must be a local Aboriginal place name, which is awesome. And it's the
Hand Knitters Guild of Victoria run this market every year. It's 2 days. It's in May, exactly when you want to stock up on yarn for the winter. It is just perfect timing.
And it's actually just a really lovely space for a yarn market as well. Like it's just a big hall. It's not too big, so it's not overwhelming. And it's really, because it's in quite a central, well, it's just one big hall. It's really easy. Works well for us because we do a little reconnaissance trip and work
This is our high or top class secrets.
Yeah, we do a little recce and decide what we have to get, and then spend a lot of time on our phones working out what patterns we're going to do with it.
Because don't you see, like, you'll see a yarn and then say, oh my gosh, that will work with this other pattern. And if you're like me, a Ravelry addict, I was on Ravelry at like 6 o'clock in the morning, looking through all my favorites, just kind of refresh my memory about different sweaters or shawls or projects that I wanted to make. So if I saw something, it would trigger my memory.
So yeah, I ended up with quite the haul. Quite the haul.
Yep.
So where do I start? I'll start at the very beginning. Very good place to start.
Yes.
Should have sung that. There's not been enough of my slightly out of tune singing on this podcast. Down the track, guys. Look forward to that one. And I use guys in a non-gendered sense, just to clarify that too. All right. So, where did I start?
I love that color.
I had, so just the week before that week, I'd seen a post there's this beautiful Ukrainian designer called Teti Lutsak. And I am already making one of her patterns, which I've talked about before, the Javelin sweater. It's currently a whip. And she had published in the
52 Weeks of Easy Knits, I think, by Lina Publishing.
The Funky Turtle sweater, which I love the name. And
it just brings to mind like cartoon turtles.
It totally does. Totally does. So that was being released as a single pattern, which attracted my attention. You have the book.
I do.
Don't you? I perhaps should have got the book. Anyway, never mind. Oh, it's probably not too late.
No, you can find it.
Yeah. Anyway, so I decided that the Funky Turtle just had such a cute design, and I love the kind of play of the different sections of color, and I just loved it. So back when I went to Tandy, I had this lovely skein of this kind of variegated goldy kind of color. So I thought that I have 2 skeins of it, would make a really great, well, the pattern required 2 skeins of 8 ply. This tends to be quite it knits up as a plump 8 ply. So 2 skeins of 3 different colors, and then there's just a little contrast bit in there. So I had 2 skeins of this, and I decided I needed some more Tandy yarn that would go with this to make the funky turtles. So I got, what am I doing? I got this lovely cider house red.
Gorgeous.
Which I will just flag, they're running low on it at the moment, so but I think it might be making a comeback in the future. Not sure. Cider house red and this lovely green color called mallard, and so those will be
fabulous
my 3 combo colors for the funky turtle sweater. And then I picked up quite a budgety little skein. Just looks black, I think, in your frame at the moment, but it's a really, really dark, like chocolate brown.
Yeah, is what I would call it.
And this was just from the Yarn Barn, I think it was called.
It?
I think it's just a really small
card.
No, we didn't get a card
because they had some beautiful yarn.
Yeah,
and very affordable, and it feels beautiful.
I'm quite sure it was called the Yarn Barn. So it's just, I think it's just like a little husband wife. They
lovely,
you know, just sort of really affordable, and
I think it was all Australian.
It just looked like, I think that it's not hand dyed or anything. I think they're just like an old school yarn producer.
Yeah.
No frills.
And it's beautifully soft.
And it's lovely. And it will go as a great little contrast.
Perfect.
So thrilled with that purchase.
Excellent.
And then what else did I get? Oh, so
this is a highlight.
Yeah. Back when was it? It was our
Christmas
episode.
Mm-hmm.
I made matchy Sophie scarves for Gayanne and myself, using a single strand of a lace weight Ixchel yarn with just some mohair that I had lying around. So we'll link to that in the show notes. But I had to go back, and I haven't, you don't see Ixchel around at markets that much. I think she does a few, but I don't know.
She has a website.
Yes,
so you
she
can
does.
always order from the website in between the markets, and I think she'll be at Bendigo.
Oh, did she say she was coming to Bendigo?
I think she'll be at Bendigo. I think.
Right.
Can't confirm. Sorry if I'm wrong.
Have a look at the website. Anyway, she's very active on social media, so check out social media if you are going to Bendigo. She'll probably tell you which pavilion or shed she's in. We'll talk about Bendigo another day, but you do need to pre-plan your trip a little bit for Bendigo because it is big.
We're already about half an hour into this episode, and don't start me talking on Bendigo.
Yeah, we'll need more time. So anyway, Ixchel, she does a lot of sort of local markets, and she's about 2.5 hours out of Melbourne. So you don't see her around that much to be able to squish the yarn in. That's the official squishing yarn. It looked a bit iffy, sorry.
Her yarn is definitely squishable.
You don't often get a chance to squish the yarn. Now I have been purchasing, I'm really delaying this, increasing the suspense. I have been purchasing yarn from Ixchel way back when you just followed her on Facebook.
Yes.
And like she would post skeins, small quantities of things, and you would jump in and say, I want 2 skeins of that. And she would like DM you her bank details and you'd transfer the money and include your email address. Like it was all like very small quantity, hard, you know, sort of, and she does still a lot of yarn club stuff and uses natural dyes. She does a lot of yarn with natural dyes. So yes, big fan. Finally,
she's also the only one doing Angora locally as well.
And she's got bunnies. She does Angora bunnies. Is Angora always a bunny?
Well, there's Angora goats that make mohair, but Angora bunnies are the bunnies.
Ah, right. Okay. Yes, the bunny stuff is glorious.
Oh my gosh,
it's
soft.
It's a little pricier, as you would expect from bunnies. But yeah. Anyway, stop talking, Nicole. Just show. So first of all, what I did get was a very fun skein for a friend of mine to make a gift. My friend is a big fan of pink and purple, and this is a skein called Witch's Brew. And
you can't really see the sparkles.
It does have sparkles in it. What I do like, so Charlie is the force behind Eggshell Yarns, and she's glorious, and we are still trying to get an interview with her. So we'll keep harassing you, Charlie. She does a lot of sparkle, but what I really like about her sparkle is it's quite a subtle sparkle. It's just like a little fleck of sparkle. My friend loves sparkle, so I think this is going to knit up into a glorious single skein project, and I haven't quite worked out which one it will be, but it will be for her birthday, and I think I'm safe to talk about it here because she's not a knitter, so she probably doesn't watch this. All right, and then I bought some stuff for me as well. So I have recently become obsessed.
Sorry, I'm holding that up already. Like,
stop procrastinating. I have recently become obsessed by. I'm probably going to mispronounce this one too. Meant to Google it. Faroese. How do you pronounce it?
I pronounce it Faroese.
So it's a shawl shape that has kind of shaping up high on the neck, and it's a quite a traditional shawl shape. So there's
trapezoid.
Yeah, there we go, trapezoid. And Suzanne Summers or Sosu Knits has this gorgeous pattern that is not only that sort of shape but has brioche in it. And it's glorious. It's called the Lizzy Shawl. And so I bought myself some yarn to make the Lizzy Shawl. And so this gorgeous skein is called Autumn Glow, and it too has a sparkle. This is my first ever.
Doesn't? I thought it just had rubbed off because it's quite subtle. It
does. It has a sparkle. So this autumn colour does come in a non-sparkly version, and I think it's called Autumn Flow, and this one's Autumn Glow. So it has a little sparkle. It's my first sparkle scheme, but I just thought
beautiful.
It would work. I'm not a big sparkly person. I sparkle on the inside.
I think it's going to be fantastic with the brioche
and
then
the
plain colour with the grey.
This lovely grey colour, which is just called dark grey wolf. I thought it was dark grey wool, and I was like, that's not a very creative name. Dark grey wolf.
You can always count on Charlie for a creative name.
Yes.
One of the beautiful things
she
about her yarn.
is glorious. Absolutely.
I want to just also give a shout out to Owl of Athena, who had the most beautiful Surrey silk blend that I didn't get.
We spent a lot of time admiring the fluff, and you were just in a really restrained mood that day.
Okay, so I'm kind of saving up for Bendigo.
Okay.
Right? Like, but I wanted to give a shout out and let everybody know about this Surrey. that she has in beautiful colors. And I do have one of her skeins, which is this color of Fairy Riot. It was also part of our Christmas yarn. And I think I actually might pre-order from her some of her Surrey.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
We'll see.
We spent a lot of time there trying to decide on colours, and then it was all a bit much that day, but we had a lovely chat to her. She's an absolute delight, and we are looking forward to visiting her at Bendigo. She's definitely going to be at Bendigo.
On top of the list.
Yep. Also check out our Instagram. There's a few other photos of people that we met that we had really beautiful chats to. It's such a local, lovely industry to be part of.
Yeah,
just glorious.
It's one of the best things about markets. Sometimes I can get a bit anxious about going and having that kind of communication. I think it's probably something that's shared with a lot of people, both attendees and vendors, like having those conversations. But then you get to meet people and connect over just this love of yarn, which is amazing. And I actually had a very similar experience on local yarn shop day. I think you were away.
I think I was working.
Maybe.
I've been working way too many weekends lately.
Anyway, I went to our beautiful local yarn shop, Maker on local yarn shop day, and I bought all the fluff. This is Prosper Yarn Mint, their mohair silk base. I have bought enough to make a Shelly sweater, but I'm not exactly sure if I'll do that or not, what I'll use it for, but I just love this color, this like wine Pinot kind of color.
Obviously, because this is her skein yarn. This is her Prosper yarn.
Oh, whoops. Anyway, when I was there and had a chat with Emily, who you can see her interview.
We'll link it.
We'll link it in the show notes. I met a lovely new friend, Jenny Min. Her Instagram handle is Wait Min Knit, which I thought was so clever. And Jenny and I have caught up and we're having a discussion about unspun yarn, and I was lamenting the fact that I hadn't been able to kind of get my hands on it. I haven't. We would have to order it.
It's not something that we really have much of in Australia. It just doesn't seem to be a trend here yet.
No, I haven't seen any locally produced, that's for sure. So Jenny is a champ and brought me some Newtonen, just a couple of balls that she had at home in stash so that I could swatch with it, and I was so thankful.
Can I feel it? Because I still haven't.
It's beautiful, and it knits
it's
up.
Sort of soft and textured at the same time.
Absolutely, and when it knits up, it's multicolored. I can't even describe it, and it's different colors and different lights. It's super complex.
It's intensely fragile looking.
But
it's not terribly. I mean,
you could
pull it apart. I reckon if you're a tight knitter, you'd have to be quite careful with it.
I think this is where being a loose knitter
is gonna work
a
for
benefit.
you. Yeah. Interesting.
Yes, love it, and thank you so much, Jenny, for gifting this to me. I really, really appreciate it. Sorry, one more acquisition. This book. Have you tried to get this book if you're in Australia? It took me months. Anyway, do you remember the night that I was looking for it? Legit. I almost paid like $30 for shipping from a source in the UK.
Oh, right.
But I found it in Australia. It's Sand Garn, Soft Knits for Women. And this sweater on the cover is the one I'm after to make. It's called the Frankie sweater, and the book has also a bunch of other beautiful, quite oversized, cozy type sweaters that that really appeal to me and my style, so I can't wait. And special thanks to the Yarn Ball for carrying this.
The Yarn Bowl is a store in Brisbane.
Yes.
That is an absolute fabulous store. I bought, they have a big range of everything, actually, because I've bought some dye for hand dyeing from them as well.
Oh, yeah. So really looking forward to getting that in my queue.
Ooh, so pretty.
I know. It's gorgeous, and I'm super excited about it. I think now we might talk about just a few things that we are loving at the moment.
I just finished a book that I wanted to talk about. It's called A Room Made of Leaves by Kate Grenville. Kate Grenville is a very well-known Australian author. She is a predominantly fiction writer. I think she's done a few little bits and pieces that aren't. But this was a book that I thought was relevant to this podcast because it is about, it is a fiction, but there is some, Kate has done extensive historical research. So it's kind of a historical fiction about the wife of Captain MacArthur, who is credited with creating the Australian Merino sheep. So the book is, so he came over, I think, just after the first fleet, or a few years after the first fleet, to Australia with his wife, Elizabeth. And as I say, is credited with creating the Australian Merino, which was described quite a lot in the book. So they decided to run some sheep. You'll have to read it, there's a lot more context to it, but got some pretty mangy looking, hairy kind of sheep from, I think it was Africa, and managed to get a couple of Spanish Merinos. Now, the Merinos were not very good. They didn't have a good temperament. They didn't really look after their young very well. They didn't, I was going to say crop well. They didn't have many offspring either. So really poor breeders. And they crossed them with the Spanish Merino with these kind of ratty other sheep that they'd acquired. This is way back where, you know, you just got what you could in Australia. It was very, very poor at that stage. Very little resources, everything, you know, this is like 17, you know, like early 1800s, late 1700s. So, fabulous book. What I love about it is written from the perspective of his wife, Elizabeth. Now, women, we never know anything about them in history because the patriarchy is strong. So Elizabeth, they did find some letters from Elizabeth quite a few years ago, which Kate Grenville had access to, and she has written a version of, she's written a book as well where she's transcribed the letters because they were quite difficult to read, and then given some historical context and some context around those. But this book was written from the perspective of Elizabeth. Now, Elizabeth, the letters that we have of hers are very, you know, sort of the friendly, bubbly letters that people wrote back to their families in those days. They don't have a lot of detail. So there's a little bit of exploration of maybe who the real Elizabeth was. But some of the really interesting things about this story is Elizabeth her family were sheep farmers in Devon, I think, in the UK. So when she and Captain MacArthur came over, she had grown up around sheep and on a sheep farm and probably knew quite a lot about sheep farming. So this book explores the idea that it was actually her and another convict who had also been a sheep farmer in the UK that actually developed the breed, because Captain MacArthur was very rarely in Australia. He spent a heck of a lot of time trying to not be in Australia. He was a very ambitious man and also had certainly later in life some really significant mental health issues. So it's a fascinating book. It doesn't shy away from the really tough parts of Australian history, including the horrendous way that the early settlers and beyond treated Aboriginal people. And I really appreciated the discomfort and honesty that the book brought to that. It talks about Aboriginal people in a very respectful way, and you can really see that, it may not be reflective of what Elizabeth was like, but it is reflective of what Kate was like. But it's a fascinating read, and it's available on audiobook, which is exactly how I like to consume my books these days, because I can knit and read at the same time, and I love it.
I love to do that too. And the other thing I enjoy are other knitting podcasts, and we have discovered a particularly fantastic one called A Knitter's Suitcase, and we'll link to her YouTube channel in the show notes. Daniela is originally Italian, lived in the UK for a number of years, and is now living in what I consider to be my hometown in Australia of Perth. So she has a beautiful aesthetic, loves using color, and is just really bright and bubbly, and
I feel like she's a bit of a haphazard knitting soul sister of mine.
I think she might be a bit more planned than you.
Maybe. What I do love is the first episode of Daniela's I watched. She was knitting a sweater and she lost it yarn chicken, and there was just like a tiny strip that she needed to finish her sweater. So the sweater was in blue, and right on the bottom bit of ribbing, she'd run out of yarn, and so she could have pulled back a row and bound off a row early, but instead she incorporated a vibrant yellow yarn just to finish it off. And it looks deliberate because it's a deliberate contrast color. And she loves color, and she is playful, and she's fantastic.
Yeah, definitely check her out.
I think it's time to talk pairings. So to celebrate FOs, because it's always a celebration when you finish something beautiful. And also because it's like it's red wine weather here in Melbourne, in Australia at the moment.
Slow cooking, kind of stewy soup.
Oh yeah.
Weather that matches red wine perfectly.
So this time we're going to talk about this wine called it's called the Barossa Boy. So it's made by Trent Burge. He's a 6th generation Australian winemaker. So Grant Burge is the larger brand that you might be more familiar with.
They do lovely sparkling.
They do lovely lots of things. It's a really premium family-owned Australian winery. I think they must be one of the first families of wine. So going right back to when the wine industry started in Australia in the sort of 1840s, 1850s. Anyway, so Trent is 6th generation, and he has this quite fun label. The wines extend from the more affordable ones, like this one. This one's about $30 a bottle, which in Australia is an affordable wine.
I know.
We have high wine prices here, through to really top level premium wines as well. So this one is a Shiraz
That's
It's a new blend. A Grenache Shiraz Mataro, or GSM. Mataro, you might be familiar with it being called Mourvèdre, which is the French name, or Monastrell, which is the Spanish name, all the same grape variety. I think the American people might have coined, your people, might have coined the term Mataro, coined the name Mataro. Anyway, great little blend, and Gayanne is going to give you her tasting note.
Yep. So I get quite a strong flavor of dark chocolate and blackberry. There is something a bit the tannins are a bit grassy, if that makes sense, like a bit drier finish for me, but it's got a nice balance to it in terms of being having like that more fruit forward and savory finish.
So interestingly, it is a 2018 vintage.
Oh, so it's got a bit.
So it does have a little bit of age, and that will give you some of those more leathery kind of notes.
Yes.
Yeah. So there's a little leathery note here. That chocolatey kind of character can be from the fruit. It can be from age a little bit more. The tannins are pretty soft, but yeah, sort of maybe even like gravelly or kind of slightly.
Oh yeah, but slaty maybe.
Bit slaty. What I also like about it is there's like quite a punchy blueberry lift on the palate. So
yeah,
it smells kind of lovely and earthy and vanilla-y with that like real blackberry fruit. And then on the palate, there's a little bit more of that like punchy acidity of blueberries. That lovely, cozy.
I was gonna say this is perfect rainy night wine,
which I think we might have tonight.
I reckon.
Yeah, I think it's going to be rainy tonight. So, yeah, it's fun. All right. I think
that might do it for us today. Just I guess our usual housekeeping. If you like this episode, please give it a thumbs up. If you want to hear more of our content, you can subscribe. You have to press a different button below. And we'd love to hear your comments. We would love to know what you have finished lately, so that we might get inspired by your makes as well.
And please, lovely ones, tell your friends about us. We would really love to try and grow our audience. We love to hear from you. So yeah, please comment, and thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you again for your beautiful support.
And in between episodes, you can always catch us posting on Instagram as well. And we love to interact on that platform too.
And we are at Purlfect Pairings on Instagram. All right, well, have a beautiful day wherever you are, and we'll see you again soon.
Happy knitting!